Thanks for tuning in, guys. You're listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg Driver. I'm joined by Rahul, Johnny, and Leon Everett. Let's go! Hi, welcome to the show. It's episode 46 of Ace Comicals, and we are 1 week away from Halloween. 1 week. 1 week to the day when this podcast released. So I've been trying to get myself in a spooky mood, and we're going to be talking about some of the things that I've been doing in order to achieve that. And today I'm joined by both my co-hosts. I have Rahul.
Hey there.
And I have Leon.
Hey, hello.
Yeah, so guys, how have you been since we last spoke?
Leon should go first because he's been doing stuff and I've done nothing in these intervening 2 weeks.
He's been missing the longest.
Well, I haven't really been doing stuff. I've actually just been sat by the beach or by a pool or by another pool sipping cocktails for the week. And it's been pretty good.
Where did you go, man? I
went to the island of Rhodes. I was at a resort in Lardos, just south of Lindos on the southern coast of Rhodes. And I pretty much had my first ever chill-out holiday. Because you guys know me, I'm a city break adventurer. I go to a city, grab a hotel, only really sleep in that hotel and spend the rest of the time checking out sightseeing, museums, doing a hell of a lot of walking, and often getting more exercise on holiday than I do when I'm back home. Ending up with that annoying cliche, needing a holiday after my holiday BS. But this time was actually recharge, switch brain off, get a massage, chill out mode. And gotta say, it was pretty good. Nice. I don't think I could have every holiday be like this, but it is nice to have a sort of late year recharge, especially just, I don't know, following like months and months of just like in the zone working and feeling like I'm burning the candle at both ends. So yeah, it was much needed, and it was really good. Yeah. The thing is, well, yeah, it was really good. And yeah. The thing that's super perverse is that for the first time on a holiday, I needed to like load up on stuff. So like I filled my phone with like Netflix and Amazon Prime downloads, updated my Kindle, put new comics on my comic readers. I was all ready to go. And man, I did barely any of that. I even had like a bunch of new games on the Switch, and I think those are what I did the most, playing some like, it's gonna sound like an oxymoron, but some nighttime chill sessions of Overcooked 2. Yeah, what I did mostly was listen to music by the beach, the aforementioned beach, with my eyes closed and the cocktail in my hand. And yeah, I listened to a lot of music, a lot of music, and I completely forgot the world existed. And now I'm back, and it's great, guys. Nice.
To put you on the spot, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, but if there was going to be one song that was the soundtrack to your holiday, what would it be? Or one album?
It would probably be Blood Orange's Negro Swan, which came out about a month and a bit ago. Big fan of Blood Orange's work, highly recommend, but I feel like this latest album is probably like a culmination of all of his efforts in a way, and the sound is evolved and the collaborators are just all like creating really good music. And it's hard to explain the type of music, you've just got to listen to it really, but in ways it's so soulful, funky, but in other ways it's quite upbeat and spoken word in places. It is really hard to explain, but I definitely recommend checking it out on Spotify or like Apple Music or whatever you use. It's a really good album, and I'd say my second runner-up album for the holiday would have been Janelle Monáe, Dirty Computer. I've probably spoken in the past, but I'm a big fan of hers, and I love that album. And those were the two things constantly going through my ears as I sat back, chilled out.
Nice.
That sounds
good.
Really good. Yeah.
Sounds. I mean, like I'm gonna. I mean, like that sounds really nice. Like a really decent chill holiday. I don't often do chill holidays because I'm not a beach guy because I disintegrate in the sun because I have like the palest skin. I'm like I have like really really fair skin. I burn really quickly, like ridiculously fast. I don't do sunshine, so I end up, even when I'm on these types of holidays, I end up sitting in the shade somewhere reading or something. You know, it's like I can't. This is why I'm like I'm not a beach holiday person. But yeah, that sounds really nice though.
Well, definitely. I think it's less about the literally being in the sun part, because like I'm not a big fan of that myself either.
Yeah.
Like if I'm at the beach, I'd rather go swimming. But it's the whole thing about actually doing a beach holiday as opposed to a city break or a touristy walking sightseeing thing.
Yeah.
Like I think we've all expressed in the past that we tend not to be beach holiday or relaxing holiday people, and we've all hit that point where we're like, yeah, we had a really nice time on a beach holiday. So I'm waiting to hear from you like next spring maybe where you say, God, I did it for the first time and I really loved it.
Yeah.
It's our 30s, man. They just caught up with us.
Do you know,
that's what it is. Yeah.
Do you know what I like right now? If I was to go on holiday right now, do you know what I'd want to do? I'd want to just like lock all my doors and take a week off work and just not leave my house. Like and just entertain myself with everything that I already have that I've been putting off for weeks and things like that.
You can do that, and you don't even need to take any holiday time. It's called pulling a week-long sickie.
I thought you were going to say, like, go to the ocean and, like, track down a killer whale or something. Like, no. I figured I could picture you doing that, like, so, like bundling together your own raft made out of comic books, and then, like, harpooning a giant squid in the eye.
I'm Ahab.
The thing is, Greg, if you were at this resort,
I
could fully see what you would have done, because... sorry to bring this up again, but you could have read comics by the sea.
Yep.
You could have read comics by the pool.
Yep.
And you could have read comics by your own pool, which I had in my room.
What?
Like, there were so many areas for you to read comics, Greg. Like, you got to try out one of these holidays.
Yeah.
You don't need to be in the sun. I went on holiday with someone with a complexion that Snow White would be saying you need to get a tan girl, but it still works, man. It still works.
Yeah. No,
water damage, man. Sun damage, salt water damage, chlorine water damage. Greg's not taking his comic books anywhere near those water sources.
Chlorine. Well, these were natural water pools, man.
I'm gonna chime in now, and I'm gonna tell you, like, by comparison to your last 2 weeks, I've had a fairly nerdy 2 weeks. And these are all the things I've been doing to try and get myself in the spirit of Halloween and other things as well. So we'll start off with what I caught at the cinema, because I caught Venom. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I watched it.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... Oh, my God. Wow. Yeah. Taking away the fact that it's, you know, it's just not a good film.
But is it so bad it's funny, or is it just terrible?
Depending on the company, like me and Marvin had a really good time, like just ripping it apart. But I can imagine that if you went by yourself, you'd come out of it thinking that it was a waste of. I think it's like only an hour and 20 minutes long. It felt really short. Yeah, but like it was still a waste of your time.
I went with Sophie, and we were kind of laughing at it together a little bit, like in the cinema. Like Sophie kept looking at me and kind of miming, like, "What is this?" You know,
it has its moments. It has some interesting moments. Yeah, but like that's not enough. Yeah, to put it together.
Can you guys explain to me how they managed to get 2 Oscar nominees and a Emmy and Golden Globe winner to be the main stars in this movie?
Money, dear boy, money.
Also, it's got a Marvel label on it.
Yeah, I like how they have like the big flashy red Marvel sign, but it says in partnership with, like in really small letters. Like they have to get it in somehow, but like you can't get away with claiming that it's full Marvel.
No,
because it's not MCU.
I think people attempted to do it just because of the buzz, because it's got Marvel attached to it, and it's money. Yeah, so and that means even more money because hey, look, it's a Marvel film, and I think it did. I think it was like I know a guy that works at the cinema, and he was telling me that even though it's supposedly a terrible film and it got trashed by critics and people have been walking out saying what the heck was that, it's still been doing reasonably well at their box office.
It did really well in the US as well, so like a sequel coming.
He was saying it was still like making money.
I will say the best part of that movie was legitimately like the end credit sequence is so good, like so good. And I don't want to say what it is, but if you're curious and you don't want to go see the film, maybe just Google what comes after the credits.
Yeah. Oh, that I burst out laughing, like literally could not hold it in when I saw that. But oh my god, yeah, no. And
I'm talking about like the very, very end.
Yeah,
like,
no, I know. No, I know. Yeah, I know.
Okay, good.
Oh no, the very, very end.
Yes.
Yeah, I burst out laughing in a good way at that.
Like a 3-minute long extended trailer.
Yeah. But the mid-credit scene. Just thinking about it right now. But yeah, no, I can't. Yeah, I think I described it to you guys as a train wreck, didn't I?
Yeah, it's not far off. I'd agree with that. I mean, if you want me to get into like movie criticism mode, it does have that thing where it's really frenetically edited, where it doesn't allow itself to enjoy the jokes that it's trying to make. So, like, it just does that thing where it's almost like the movie equivalent of having a laughter track, where it edits stuff in a way where you feel like you're supposed to laugh, but if you think about it, you're not actually having that much fun, and it's really frustrating once you pick up on it.
Yeah.
I'm just not a fan of it.
No. Yeah, no, it wasn't a great film at all, by any stretch of the imagination. So I caught that, and I also Riverdale's back. So I've been watching some Riverdale, and Riverdale's getting spooky. Riverdale's got this whole Riverdale's getting culty. It's getting culty, Leon. And we're 2 episodes in.
Forget Riverdale. I want Sabrina.
So so do I, and that happens this Friday. This Friday night, Sabrina drops on. Well, actually, Sabrina drops on Netflix, and it's just going to be something that, yeah, definitely, I really want Sabrina.
Yeah, Friday, 26th of October, so the Friday after this podcast comes out.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I get this. I have this theory that what they're currently doing with Riverdale, without spoiling too much, is going to tie up to Sabrina in some way, maybe. I'm hoping. Because it's kind of leaning that way, which I really like.
I feel like tonally it's been going in that direction for a long time anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
But like my whole aesthetic has been listening, like I've been walking to work listening to like 70s inspired, like stoner rock, occult rock, like all this kind of like 70s inspired. Imagine them driving around in hippie wagons type stuff. Like, you know, the VW camper. But you know, like when the kind of music that you associate with like that kind of like, and those films that are kind of set in that time that you get now, like films like Mandy.
Right, which I haven't seen yet. But
you've not seen Mandy? Yeah, no, Mandy's great. I watched that as well in the last 2 weeks. But yeah, it's got that kind of aesthetic, like occult rock and like Black Sabbath type stuff, and stuff inspired by Black Sabbath and whatever. And it's all very October-y and very witchy. And then Riverdale's doing this for me. And then I went to see Halloween as well. I've been and seen the new Halloween, which is absolutely brilliant. Like if you're going to go see a film, go see that, because that's great. And
I believe that's next on our list, actually.
Yeah. I like all the stuff I've been hearing about it as well, like little nods to the original and everything else. And I won't talk too much about it because you haven't seen it yet, and obviously you want to enjoy it. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And yes, Daredevil season 3 to round it off for the stuff I've watched and the stuff I've caught over the past couple of weeks. I'm like 6 episodes into Daredevil season 3 and oh my god, it's great. Like, Daredevil is definitely the best of those Netflix Marvel shows. I think I've said it like loads of times on here, but yeah.
And one of the only surviving.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a little bit weird that Luke Cage and Iron Fist got cancelled at the same time.
Yeah, you have a theory about this, don't you?
Yeah,
everyone on the internet has a theory about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I've not looked at everyone else's theories, but I don't know if my theory is the same, Leon. My theory is that they're going to do Heroes for Hire.
Yeah, that's pretty much everyone and their mum's theory.
Yeah, but if you watch the end of season 3 of season 2 even of Iron Fist, they kind of hint at a Heroes for Hire, but a different type of Heroes for Hire, involving different characters. But it's still, I really think they're going to do a Heroes for Hire.
Yeah, the weird thing of that is that obviously, like I was saying, it's been the prevailing theory of social media. But one thing that struck me weird is that everyone's expecting, because Disney got their own streaming service coming soon, that they're doing this to take the power from Netflix, so cancel these shows and then pop them on Disney. The thing that's weird about it, though, is that so Netflix are only the distributor of these shows, so when they cancel it, they're saying that they're not going to show it on their network anymore. So if that's the case, Disney, or like Marvel Television, who actually produced the show, wouldn't it be the time for them to say, don't worry, people, or we're doing a Heroes for Hire show on our own network? Because, like, it's a bit weird to cancel the popular shows that are leading into this supposed show that you're going to make. So that's a bit weird if that is the case.
Yeah.
But on top of that, the showrunner, Chio Hodari Coker, the showrunner of Luke Cage, he had like a big like goodbye tweet and stuff. So, I mean, you could estimate or guesstimate from that it'd be a completely new showrunner for the new show, the new Heroes for Hire show on Disney streaming service. But then it's such a messy way to do it like that. I mean, I'm not saying that that's not going to be the case, and in a few weeks' time we're going to get an announcement of that. But it's such a weird thing to have that, because, like, I mean, his tweet, he was thanking everybody, the cast, the crew, Marvel, everyone who helped the show. So it's like, to clear house completely and have a completely new production staff on this new show, it's just weird.
The thing that baffles me is, I mean, I can understand Iron Fist being cancelled, but I was under the impression that Luke Cage was really well received.
It was.
Yeah, and like, I mean, Iron Fist, I know, has been getting it's been like ripped apart, and it is by far the weakest link of the chain if we're talking about those Marvel shows on Netflix. But like, Luke Cage is one of the better ones. Like, Luke Cage and Daredevil are the two better ones, in my opinion. You know, so like, to cancel Luke Cage when that's been really well received, as we've said, like, people love Luke Cage. So I don't get what they're doing there. But yeah.
Yeah, because bear in mind, I believe it's Netflix who are cancelling this stuff. It's not Disney saying we're not producing these shows anymore.
Netflix are just saying that they're not allowed to show it anymore, maybe.
So maybe Netflix are pulling their weight and saying, we know you've got your service. Give us your Pixar movies back, or we're not going to show your stupid superhero crap. But who knows?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, maybe we will get a Heroes for Hire out of it. That'd be quite nice if we did. But then again, Netflix have just gone and done that cool thing where, you know, like, they've just spent money on those Marvel shows, because on the when you log into Netflix and you scroll through, it's got like its own special section with like animated moving characters in the background and stuff. Like, when you highlight Daredevil, he kind of shadow boxes and jogs on the spot or whatever, and things like that. And it's like, they've just spent loads of money on rolling something like that out to showcase their special Marvel shows that only Netflix have. This is why you get Netflix, because of this kind of thing, throwing it in your face, and then that to happen. I don't know, but yeah. Yeah, that about wraps it up. Oh yeah, I remember talking about it to you, Leon, before, how I was doing that a D&D campaign, because my D&D campaign finished, the one that I was playing in a long time. And we got to the end of it, like the end of a campaign, and I'm doing my own kind of episodic thing now, where I'm running a game. So I'm running a game that is based on Ghostbusters in the D&D world, but it's the modern D&D world, which is the same world our last campaign was set in. So D&D in modern time, D&D, but it's 2018, people have mobile phones and stuff. And it's based on Ghostbusters. It's called Spectre Quashers, and I've started running that, and that was really cool. I ran the first one of those on Saturday. With my group, who are always a great bunch of guys to play D&D with. I couldn't ask for a better group, basically. Yeah, it was really cool, and we got to the end of the material that I had planned. We finished the first episode, if you like, and yeah, it was enjoyable. It was fun. I did this whole thing where they kind of went to the base of operations, the firehouse, if you will, and they all met up, and they had they'd all come with like stubs off a poster for a job application, a really ambiguous job application promising large amounts of money for very little effort type thing, research and all this stuff. Like all you have to do is test my equipment. So they all turn up, and they get their first call, and they get sent to a college that's having trouble with a lot of its male students winding up dead in dorm rooms, and they don't know why, and there's like members of the faculty appearing on lists and then disappearing, like turning up, teaching 3 lessons and then never seeing them ever again, and things like that. And it turned out that there was a bunch of succubi that had infiltrated the college and were basically harvesting the place for souls. Because the whole point of succubi in the D&D world is they corrupt you and then take your soul down to the 9 hells, or the lower planes or whatever. And they had infiltrated, and this all culminated because the dean had been trying to keep it quiet, and this all culminated when the Spectre Quashers got a call, and the dean's outside wringing his hands, and there's this supernatural frat party going on in one of the houses. And it's just a mess because there's like bodies everywhere. People have danced to death and things like that. And there's these 3 succubi kind of orchestrating it all. Everybody's like a puppet, charmed people bringing them drinks and things like that. And then they had to take on these guys and trap them and take them back to the professor, which was really cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to be part of one of your D&D games one day. If we could ever make it happen in Leicester.
Yeah, dude, yeah. One day I will run a one-shot for you guys when you're up here. It'll be fun, yeah. So we did that. We play 5th edition, by the way, which is really easy, and the rules are really nice and clear. So it's quite simple, quite easy to get the hang of. As long as you've got everything in front of you, you're fine. It's great. And yeah, that kind of wraps up what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. So... And yeah, I've been slowly trying to get myself into spooky mode because it's Halloween in a week's time, and I'm really excited about that. And I need to buy some pumpkins. I've got 1 pumpkin, but I need probably about 3 or 4 more.
Speaking of spooky mode, and since we've been talking about TV lately, have you watched The Haunting of Hill House?
Well, yes, I have. I've watched like half of episode 1, and I think I remember telling you right before we started recording that I didn't like it.
Yeah, I was leading you into a trap there, Greg. Because I'm only halfway through. Well, season 1 is 10 episodes, I think.
Yeah,
I'm on episode 6, and I'm really loving it. I feel like we have very polar opinions on this show. I'm really, really loving the fact that it's like a family drama with this undercurrent of like horror and tragedy that's going on in this family's lives, and I feel like you didn't have that same feeling with it.
No, do you know what? I don't know what it is, but it's a similar thing. I got turned off from American Horror Story for similar reasons.
Okay.
And I
haven't watched that.
I think it's because it focuses on people drama too much. Like,
maybe I feel like I'm Marmite.
I feel like I'm watching a soap opera and not a horror.
Yeah, that must be just a Marmite thing, because I think that's the thing that makes it work for me, where it's not grotesque horror and then it's put into a family unit. I feel like it's a family drama first, and then the like the horror is flavor for it. And like the way I was trying to explain this to my colleagues is, I feel like there's a lot of like it's a very contemporary thing for shows to follow like the Lost format, where you have an excuse genre plot as a framework for having all this character study or like familial drama or whatever. Yeah. So like in Lost, it was the mystery of the island, but really it was an excuse, a framework to have these like really complicated interweaving backstories for all these people that happen to go on there. It was like an excuse to write about these interesting caricatures. And then I think like Orange is the New Black has the genre of like being a prison drama, but it uses the same thing where you have all these characters and you flash backwards and forwards into their life. And the The Haunting of Hill House is very similar. It's the genre of horror, and it's using it as an excuse to go back and forth between present day and the past, when this family was living in this place called Hill House that, you know, is supposedly haunted, and using it as an excuse to show what their life was like before, how the house affected them, how the family drama affected them, and how they ended up becoming the people they were in present day and dealing with the consequences. And I really like that. Like, maybe I'm just attracted to that style because ever since Lost sort of popularized it, maybe it just works for me. But I don't know, I'd say give it another chance, because there's some stuff in there that I think you would really like. It doesn't go directly into like grotesque stuff, but there are some really good moments, like especially like episodes 5 and 6 are some of the best TV I've watched in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to give it a look and try again. I've been recommended it by a couple of people, but maybe it was just the mood I was in on Sunday, but I started watching it and I just felt that it wasn't for me, because it was just leaning into the family drama stuff too much, which isn't me. I'm not into that side of, like, I like things to either be really well balanced and have as much of one as they have of the other, or to be like, to really, if they're gonna tell me they're a horror movie, I want them to lean into that and be a horror movie and have lots of awesome moments where, things are coming out of the ceiling and people are getting frightened and eviscerated and things like that. I don't necessarily need to know like how people are dealing with that in their heads, because it's not the people that are the draw for me. It's the same with monster movies. If I go to watch a monster movie, I don't want to know about the people. I want to know about the thing. Like, I'd be interested in learning about the house. It doesn't matter who's in the house for me. I just want to know what the house is and what it can do and why it's that way.
I don't think that's what the show is trying to sell in this case. Yeah. But yeah, if you ever find, if you have a few hours spare, I'd say try and at least catch up to episode 5, because that's a really good one. Yeah,
it'd be the house that would be the draw for me. I'd be more interested in the house and the people, definitely. But yeah, I mean, it's, as you said, if you're into that kind of thing, it'd be something, definitely go ahead and watch it. I guess we should move on to comics. So I've got a bunch of comics that I've been reading. A couple of them spooky, a couple of them metal. I'm going to open this up with the DC Cursed Cavalcade. Now, this is quite a cool one. I remember I had something similar last year. Do you remember, Leon, that DC horror anthology?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, this is kind of something very similar. This is the Cursed Comics Cavalcade, and it's an 80-page special. And it's 10 stories. It's an anthology format collection of Halloween and horror themed tales starring DC heroes, kind of similar to what we had last year. Except I think this one's better than last year's. I think, like, because last year had some really strong moments and some really weak moments. I think this one's better in its content, as in it's kind of more consistent, and I liked some of the stories in this better. It's a seasonal play on a thing that DC used to do called Cancelled Comics Cavalcade, where they used to test material for like stories that were submitted that never maybe made it into print for characters and things like that. They used to collect them up and put them out as like an anthology. And yeah, I thought this was really cool. And it's just like a really nice thing to kind of get towards Halloween, like kind of spooky stuff. If you're into that kind of thing, you enjoy Halloween as much as I do, this is what, it's like a nice thing to have. It's a cool some cool Halloween stories, something to chill out and read. The best 3 stories in here of the 10 was the Batman one, which was Gorehound, which was a slasher movie with a twist, and it plays with classic horror movie and monster and slasher movie tropes in an interesting way, in a very Batman way as well, which is very nice. The other one that I really liked was the Wonder Woman one, which was called Siren Song, and this one is like a nice use of the classic Greek siren myth to tell a haunting monster story, which I thought was really cool. Third one that I picked out was the Demon, which was called Yellow Jack, and that is like themes of demonic possession, gothic horror, but in the DC universe, in the Demon's world, if you will, set in New Orleans in, like, I think it's the 17 or 1800s, and it's a really nice story. But yeah, overall the whole thing's really cool, and there's like a really nice kind of like Spirit of Halloween thing at the end with Zatanna, which is quite cool. Some really nice artwork in here, actually, as I just flicked through it. The thing that actually drew me to it, actually, was the fact that it includes some of my favourite characters, notably Swamp Thing, Zatanna, and Batman. The Robin and there's a story with Robin and Solomon Grundy as well, which is quite nice. And it's just I think the best one for me, the artwork wise, was the Batman story, because it has this like really kind of like fine pencil quality and these really nice wash watercolors over it, and it's just like fine lines and really, really nicely detailed, really just really finely done, like in the expressions on people's faces and things like that, and it just works really well and just looks really nice. And for the content as well, it's just perfect. Yeah, it's a great thing to grab if you can grab one. It's 10 stories and it's well worth the money. 80 pages of Halloween fun, and yeah, it was just a treat for this time of year. Really, it's just something, and I just enjoy seeing Halloween celebrated, and I think that's the point of it. Like, I like it when people notice and notice Halloween and do something about it. I quite like that. I like seeing it when people put pumpkins out and stuff. It just warms me up inside. It's like, yes, people remember Halloween. Because I don't think enough people remember Halloween sometimes. Yeah, definitely. It's quality. The Batman book, the Batman story, especially in that. Actually, I'd like to see maybe the Batman story would be nice extended to a full length trade. I think, because it would work very well. I can see that, maybe like maybe not even a full length trade. Maybe just like a couple of 100 pages, like Killing Joke, like 100-page thing or something like that. Is because that's not a particularly long story, but a full Batman story of that would be cool. Yeah, that's DC Curse Cavalcade. That's my first one on my list. Leon, anything on your list?
Yes. So while I was off, I had been reading a couple of comics in prep for the last episode that I was unable to make in the end. So I thought I would give Blackbird a reread to talk about on this episode. So last episode, Rahul went into detail about Blackbird, which is the Sam Humphries and Jen Bartel book. And yeah, I pretty much echo a lot of what Rahul said, so I won't reiterate it too much, but as you guys discussed, it is very much a Leon jam in a lot of ways. I think it's quite a compelling start. I think this setup was really good at building relationship between the sisters and the main character Nina's state of mind, and I think what it really does in that cool like sort of protagonist, almost sort of like magical mystery protagonist type of setup, is that it shows the passing of time and really important moments succinctly, but very impactfully. So the montages never feel empty, and they're usually just a panel with like one thought bubble just describing sort of the feeling of what happened, and it's very impactful, and it definitely I don't know, it helps bond you to at least for me, the lead character sooner rather than like slower, which I quite like, and I like how it deals with trauma, disengagement, hopelessness in not really cliche ways, but it's quite economical for the amount of things that happen in these first few pages. Again, like as Rahul said, Bartel's like pencils and colors are just breathtaking. Young Wilson on the colors, and yeah, has that super image look with like a great use of like fuchsias, purples, but also like blues and just across the palette. It all seems to have this like unified, consistent look to it, and I think Humphreys is able to nail a lot of the dialogue in there, where it doesn't sound cliched or hackneyed, but instead it feels quite real. But yeah, like I think it sets up a cool world where like you have like this feeling of ancients or gods or like beyond the pale, like this whole world that of magic that usually like kids or like people who like disaffected in some way have some sort of link to or want to be whisked away to this magical world to escape their own horrible existence. And I feel like this nails that in a really tangible way, but there's still quite a lot of questions that need answering. I think the panel structure is really, really cool, where you have during like the more fantastical parts, the panels like overlap and intersect, and they're chaotic, just like the events. Whereas the panels during the quote-unquote normal part use quote-unquote normal white gutters. And I think it works really well for pacing, but also displaying the dizziness of the events and like the otherworldliness, which is really cool. And I just want to note there's a great use of speech bubbles and thought bubbles interacting to demonstrate like panicked and overlapping thoughts, and I thought that was really, really effective. And I'm sure I've seen it elsewhere, but here I thought it really nailed the sequence, and it speaks to creators who sort of have a really good grasp of their characters and marrying that up to the form. So I'm looking forward to more. I've been looking forward to this book for a while because I follow Jen Bartel on Twitter, and the cover has been her icon for months, it feels. So I'm happy it's finally out, and I'm happy that I've enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to checking out more.
Yeah, I still haven't read it. I mean, I keep meaning to. I know I should after what Ray said about it last time, but I still haven't, which is on me. So I really should get around to reading that now, both of you two have read it, because I need to have an opinion. Yeah. Well, it sounds really cool.
I just want to layer on top of what Leon said, on top of what I've said. So I don't think I gave enough credit to the colorist, Young Wilson, when I spoke about it last time. But like, as Leon pointed out, she's, Young's also involved. And like a lot of what I did like about this comic and a lot of what I gushed about was in fact the color. So whatever their involvement is should be clarified. And like, there's so much suffused color that like the lighting in this comic is so good. Like from page 1 where we see the two sisters sat in their bedroom and there's these like Christmas lights all over the walls. And that thing I was talking about suffused and like textured paint, like really comes off the page because of that. And I want to do one last shout out before we move on to something else for that. And also like to the point Leon made about like the intersection between internal dialogue and like speech bubbles. There are some really cool moments, and I think we're going to be talking about the same stuff here, where Nina's having like an internal dialogue, and she's trying to suppress her compulsive thoughts, which then gets interrupted by somebody else from, outside of her head. And it works really well, and I want to see more of that kind of creativity.
Yeah, definitely. And like, quickly going back to the color bit, like there's a panel where it shows cars on a bridge as Nina's running quite early on, and just the way the headlights and rear lights of each car is shown as like sort of spodges of like illumination. Beautiful. I just love it. I love it. It's done so well.
And all the sound effects are like colored in a different hue as well. So like you got the honking and the beeps like as orange and pink and purple depending on which car it's coming from. It's very clever.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I should shout out again. Writers Sam Humphries, artist is Jen Bartel, layout artist is Paul Reinwand, colorists are Nayoung Wilson and Jen Bartel, letterers Jodie Wynn, designer Dylan Todd. The main cover was done by Jen Bartel, and the variant was done by Fiona Staples.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I need to give you a list of credits actually for the Cursed Comics Cavalcade, and there's like 44 names here. So I don't know if I should read the full amount out right now, because it's a real list.
I guess read out the Batman one, since that's the one you were taken with. Yeah,
so Batman in Gorehound, written by Gary Dauberman, artist is Riccardo Federici, colours by Sonny Go, and letters by Steve Wands. But as I say, I mean, this book it's like a whole world of talent in here. There's like 44 names worked on this thing, and yeah. It was just really cool. But yeah, those were the Batman credits. You can find the full list of credits. They'll be somewhere, possibly on the DC website, which will have like the whole, because obviously there's credits for each. There's a different creative team on each story. But yeah, it's a great anthology. Moving on then from Blackbird is my next one on my list, which is What If Ghost Rider. And the title on the cover of this comic is What If Marvel Comics Went Metal with Ghost Rider? The cover of the comic is Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes, wailing on a guitar, standing on the bonnet of his Dodge Charger, flames everywhere, kind of Mad Max-ish when you look at it. And immediately I've got this stupid grin on my face looking at this, because it's great. And yeah, so I cracked it open and I had a look at what was inside, and I wasn't disappointed. And I remember saying to Ray actually last time, because we were talking about the return of What If, and I talked about the Spider-Man one. Yep. Yeah, this one is like I think we've had the Punisher one as well since then, but this one is really cool because this is like just completely out there. It's less of a what if and more a like an explosion. So the minute you open the book, it's like it says basically it's like this fictional band, Hassenwald, who are I'm assuming from the look of that logo, death metal band from Latvia, and they have given their they have expressed an interest in Marvel Comics and given Marvel permission to print a comic about them. This band from Latvia, this death metal band with this awesome logo. And Marvel Comics and Mount Sorcista Productions present Hassenwald with Garoth the Fleshweaver, Oot of the Abyss, and the unspeakable horror of Necrotis. Written for Marvel Comics by Sebastian Gerner, penciled and inked and coloured by Caspar Winyard. And yeah, it's just great. And there's like a table of contents here, and the book isn't nearly that long. Immediately, you look at the table of contents, and like you see like these like page title like Hassenwald, Hassen, we lost our minds, an editorial, and that starts on page 4, and apparently is carried on page 37, which doesn't exist. You've got What If Marvel Comics Went Metal with Ghost Rider, which starts on page 6, which is the main comic. And then these other extra added stuff that's supposed to be in here. One of them starts on page 150, and that's No Key Black Enough, a factual fable of inks and incisions. There's a thing here, If a Tree Falls in the Hassenwald, the story of the band and their unique sound. That starts at 384. I should mention that Hassenwald, it's German for hate forest. Hate forest. I did note that down earlier because I translated it, because I knew I looked German to me. And then on page 666, behind the corpse paint, which I thought was great. So we move on to the main comic, and it just from start to finish, it's just completely insane. And there are some fantastic pages in this. There's some great satire, and it's very, very comical, very comedic, and it's very good in that way, in its comedy, and in the way that it expresses that, and the way that it explores the comics industry, because it does this whole thing where the comic starts where this band have gone to Marvel Studios, and Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, is an intern at Marvel Studios, and it's his job to show them around and then drive them back to the airport. So he has the task of looking after them for the day, and he's given them the tour of Marvel, and he's showing them around the building. This is where all the magic happens, and it's just a bunch of people in cubicles typing at desks. Stuff like that. It's just great. And when one of the band members sees it, actually, there's a great quote here. The silent struggle, that pointless search for meaning in the blinking void of hope. It's even more beautiful than I could have ever hoped for. And that's when he's looking at these rows of cubicles and people at desks. And there's just... it's just hilarious, start to finish. The colours in here are nice and vibrant, nice and bold and bright. Everything about it just screams heavy metal from start to finish when you're reading it, and it really does capture that, and it really does celebrate metal in a really great way, like a celebration of both genres, comics and metal, in the way that it's put together, and in the way that some of the action scenes are laid out on the pages. And there's some beautiful page layouts here, I must say. There's a really nice double page spread towards the back, where it's there are no panel borders, and it's just continuous bleed, from one stage to the next, and everything about it is just beautiful and messed up, because there's some eldritch horror going on at the same time. And yeah, it just basically, so this band, they've decided that the comic that they're printing about themselves is going to have their blood in the ink to make it a bit more metal. And that's when it all starts to escalate, when they decide, when the point comes where they have to bleed themselves into the ink for the printing. That's when it starts to get a little bit ritual, a little bit summoning, a little bit kaboom, basically. It is just a high octane roller coaster of excessively loud action. It's humorous, it's loud, it's fun, it's extreme, and it's really good escapism. And I love how it deals with, in universe, with the way they talk about the comics industry. It's great. And there's some really awesome character designs, and the way they do this band as if they're this fictional band from Latveria, but they treat it as if it's actually happening and stuff like that, which is really cool. And there's one page in particular that stood out, which is this it's a landscape page, and it looks like an album cover. It 100% looks like an album cover, and I can't get over how much it looks like an album cover, and I was convinced that it was inspired by or based on something, because it just looks like something I feel like I have seen something similar, this is a tribute to something that I have seen before, because it's just that cool, and it actually looks like a death metal album cover. And here's me flipping through Spotify trying to find it, Googling, for hours and hours, and then in the end, I in broken frustration this afternoon, I put out a tweet, and I put the picture in the tweet, a picture of the page, and I could swear this is a tribute to a well-known piece of album art, but I cannot for the life of me place it, and it is driving me insane help me out, guys. And I copied in the writer and main artist on this, Sebastian Gerner and Casper Winyard. And Casper replied to me. He got back to me, and he said, because I put if I'm wrong, then it should be album art. And he said that it's not actually based on anything. It's just based on the brief he was given, the notes and the script that he was given, which is really, really cool because he's captured the mood very, very well. And he's captured the whole death metal thing, like death metal album cover thing, like insanely well in that one image. Like, it is absolutely perfect. And like I said in my tweet, if it's not album art, it should be album art because it is beautiful. And yeah, it's like one of my favorite comics pages, just because it's just brilliant. And it, like, the fact that it kind of like inspired that level of deja vu in me. Like, I feel like I have seen this. Like, this is an album cover that I have seen, and elements in it I have seen, and it's just great. And yeah, like I'm saying, the whole book is just insane start to finish. And it's a celebration of metal, akin to another book I'm going to talk about on here later, which is Murder Falcon. But a celebration of metal in a different way, because this, yeah, I'll talk more about that in a moment, because it kind of ties up to Murder Falcon. But it's just a really, really great comic if you love metal and you want something absolutely crazy to kind of like take you away from the everyday, like something big and brash and just out there to kind of take you away from all of that. Then this is what it is. This is escapism at its best, and it's great. So the full list of credits, it is Sebastian Gerner and Casper Winyard, with VC's Joe Stabino, Aleski Brislot, who's the cover artist, Joe Sabino is the letterer, John Tyler Christopher is the action figure variant cover artist. There was an action figure variant for this, which was pretty cool. Nicholas Russell on production. Kathleen Wisniewski is the editor. Nick Lowe, consulting editor. CB Cebulski, editor-in-chief. Joe Quesada, chief creative officer. Dan Buckley, president. Alan Fine, executive producer. And there's a special thanks section as well here for Gene Sharkey, Juan Winyard, Ricky Purdin, Lauren Amaro, Mark Panisher, Devin Lewis, Jake Thomas, Tom Groman, and Greg Pan. So it's quite a large team there, but ultimately a great comic. So yeah, that was What If Marvel Comics Went Metal with Ghost Rider. From there, moving on to another new one.
Yes. Shuri #1. So I believe it was announced maybe a couple months ago that there was going to be a Shuri comic, and it's here. And it's quite a promising start and a cool intro to this series. So the book seems to be about Black Panther's genius, scientist, everything, younger sister, Princess Shuri. And it seems to follow a rough continuity, following on from the stuff from the Coates and Stelfreeze run from Black Panther, which I think started 2016, and also the World of Wakanda books that followed. Mm-hmm. So all of that stuff's canon, stuff that happens in the story to Shuri is part of this storyline. And the way this book starts is that T'Challa and... Do you remember the mutant that he goes with? T'Challa and a mutant who can teleport, whose name I will remember
Eden?
At some point.
Eden's his real name.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Manifold?
Manifold is his mutant name, yeah.
That's it, Manifold, yes, who looks great in this book, by the way. But they're on a super secret mission into space as part of Wakanda's first foray into space, in a ship that Shuri obviously designed. And they're going to investigate a wormhole, but I don't think the public knows that. They just know that they're launching into space. And then they launch into space in the first couple of pages, and they're meant to be back fairly soon, but we find 2 weeks have passed and they've not returned. And Shuri has no idea why and no real idea what to do. Bear in mind that Manifold is a teleporter, so he sort of went with T'Challa as like security. So like she thought, oh, if anything goes wrong, I guess she was probably thinking, hopefully he can teleport them back to safety. So the book sort of deals with that, but also has Shuri dealing with the aftermath of the effects of things that happen in the comics that I mentioned before, and how that plays into her life now, as well as how she's going to deal with this thing. And yeah, I think in the same way that Coates and Stelfreeze wanted to really get into T'Challa's brain when they started their run of Black Panther, I feel like this is Nnedi Okorafor and Leonardo Romeo's chance or attempt to do this with Shuri. And I think it's very interesting because obviously this character has like increased popularity following the movie that came out in February, and for good reason, because she's written really well and she's played really well by Letitia Wright, and I think it's a good time to focus on this character, just because it's an interesting place to be, where you've got the role of like super genius person with a lot of stuff at their disposal, but this time it's a person who's also of royalty from their own country, which is the most technology advanced, but then also dealing with the stuff that's happened before and sort of the new abilities and things that she had to take on. You can definitely feel like a weight on her shoulders, and there's like remarks such as like, oh, this person doesn't call me princess, they're the only person who doesn't, and it feels refreshing. Plus there's it feels like there's like a bigger focus on the women who run things behind the scenes. It feels like there's good comments on how, like, with like royalty and things like that, it's always the line of succession and all that. It's very much a male endeavor or male focus, and I like in this that they sort of dig into that a bit and show like the people sort of running the scenes in the background, or basically the backbone of Wakanda. And like, yeah, I think this issue is really about setting the table and building up the world more. And I think Okorafor seems to be a really good fit for this story, especially because it's story of like a young gifted protagonist going through going against the odds in an Afro-futurist setting. And like with the holiday just gone, I was semi-lying because I did manage to read some stuff, and one of the things I read was her novella Binti.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which is the 2016 Hugo Award winner for Best Novella and the 2015 Nebula Award in the same category. And that story is about a girl called Binti, who's the first person from her like tribe, ethnic group to be accepted into this sort of prestigious college. And when she goes up there, blah blah, like things take a turn for the worst, and it's about how she deals with them, and it deals a lot with identity and the push and pull of remembering where you came from and what built you up, and not forgetting sort of the old ways and what you were taught and what's passed down to you, but at the same time not letting tradition and other things sort of shackle you back. And and I get a feeling that a lot of that is relevant in this book. So I am interested to also go forward with that series, but also see what more Okorafor brings to this. And I think the pairing of Romero and Jordi Belair on colours is a good fit, because I feel like in the colour, location, characters, you get this really it's a word that we use so much on the show, but it's very vibrant and diverse in colour sets. You get background details filled with different browns and blues. You get computer screens, the planes, and just buildings, and there's a lot of richness and texture in a lot of the panels, which I quite like. And of note, there's there's a sort of story or flashback during the book where it makes really cool use of reddish browns, oranges, and whites. And the characters have a bit of a old school look to them, with dots in eyes and stuff. And it's such a really nice touch in the middle of this book.
That is cool how that is set up on the page as well. The way that's laid out, and the way that they play that out across the pages, because it's done over, I think it's 2 or 3 pages, is it?
Yeah.
Where they do that, and it's done in small panels and there's panels without borders, and it looks like a memory. And the way they've laid it out on the page, you get the impression that it's a memory, and that certain details are bolder than others, and certain things stick more than other things. Like certain things are fractured, certain things are there, and you've got these drawings without borders, these kind of very simple, very bold line drawings with the snake and the stone, for example. And there's some great lettering as well, with everything being so bold and bright and brash and in your face, with the way that they do this.
But also, the narration is coming from her typing to a friend over the internet. Yeah. And, that mix of, this flashback, old school memory, and, the modern font and the modern text box of this chat program is a really cool mix as well.
So, this is her playing out in her head as she chats to somebody over the internet or texts to somebody. And it's like you can imagine her playing out in her head, getting the detail straight, typing it up, getting a detail straight, typing it up. And it just feels like that. It just feels great. And the whole thing I actually loved about the artwork throughout this, actually, which was something I wanted to mention, because I've read this as well, was the fact that it has these kind of really bold lines, this Kirby-esque warmth about it, this real old school kind of feel, which I think Leon was getting to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful for that. That's the main thing that I loved about it was the artwork, in fact. And what I also like as well is at the very start of the book, you see, this takes into account the other Shuri stuff as well, where in previous Black Panther volumes, where Shuri took over as Black Panther, then Shuri died. And all that stuff, so it takes all of that into account as well. And I don't know about you guys, but did you guys get print copies of this?
Unfortunately not, no.
Do Comixology copies have adverts?
No. No.
So you didn't get the Party City advert with the really, really wrong looking Thanos costume?
Definitely not.
Is this something you shared?
I think I've showed it you guys before. Yeah, it's this creepy Thanos kids costume, because it's just the head just looks completely out of proportion with the rest of the body on the costume and everything, and it just looks so wrong.
I am so glad that Comixology doesn't have adverts in the middle of its comics.
Oh,
From
man,
that picture you sent of this.
This is on the inside of the cover. It's horrible. It's offensive. It just looks so wrong and so out of proportion, and oh man, it's creepy. But yeah. It's a good Halloween costume if that's the desired effect. But yeah, like everything about this book, like the artwork and everything, and the way that that sequence in the middle, especially, and the pacing and everything else, and panel layouts, and the way they get the story across, and with her testing her technology and things like that, it's just all very, very cool. Yeah.
Like one of the things I really loved about Letitia Wright's Shuri is how sort of playful and joyful she was at making and coming up with all this cool technology. And I feel that they carry some of that across. I feel like it really does well to pull influences from the sort of Coat Stealth Rays and World of Wakanda runs, as well as the film. I think it does a good job of mixing that all together and adding sprinkling something else on top. Oh,
for sure. It ties it all up very nicely.
I love how there's a close-up of her high-top sneakers as she's diving out of a window.
Yeah. Which is also a great economical use of information, because we get the close-up on the computer screen in that, which I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that entire sequence where she's testing the wings. That's probably next to the memory. That's my second favorite sequence in that comic. So I love the way that plays out beat for beat and things like that. Quite enjoy that. So moving on from there.
I'll just do
credits.
Credit.
Yeah.
So it's writer is Nnedi Okorafor, artist is Leonardo Romero, color artist is Jordi Belair, letterer is VC's Joe Sabino, and the cover artist is Sam Spratt.
Yeah, I'm getting really bad at that. Almost forgetting to read credits out for stuff. Oh dear, yeah. That's how.
Too excited.
I know, yeah. I just want to move on to the next thing. I want to hear about your other comic, Leon.
Well, sorry. One last thing about Shuri. Have you checked out any of the alternate covers for this?
No.
Because I think there was one which was the Scott Young cover that I talked about last time, which is so cool.
There's a Scott Young cover.
Yeah, where he has that typical Scott Young sort of pseudo Charlie Brown-esque art style, where it's her transforming into like crows against this orange and yellow backdrop. It's really good. I'd check that out if I were you.
Because he does like the Marvel kind of like kid Marvel kids, like they're like little kids, aren't they, when he draws them? Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, it's cool how he does that. I like that. But yeah, I've seen some of his variants for other stuff, and it's really cool. I should check that out. That one sounds really nice. So Leon,
that's all I got.
I think there's like one last thing on your list.
Yes, and it is not a comic.
Oh, I thought it was a comic.
It does have speech bubbles in it, but it is not a comic.
Oh.
And yes, Rahul, you're right.
Sorry, jumped ahead.
So, I was playing this on the way on the train to Fort Bubble, and then because I've been playing it on an iPhone. Don't usually play games on there much, so the next time I played it was when I was on the way to Rhodes, and this is Donut County, developed by Ben Esposito, who I believe used to work for the people that made Unfinished Swan, who are called Giant Sparrow. It's a studio that I'm quite fond of, and it's published by Annapurna Interactive, who seem to be releasing all the games that I love over the last 2 years. So Donut County is basically a game where you play as this douchebag raccoon and you control a hole with your thumb if you're playing on the iOS, and you drag the hole about to swallow objects, and the more objects that you swallow, the greater the hole increases in size, until you're able to swallow up loads of other things, or bounce things out, or use fire to make things fly up, and such and such. And it's, in terms of gameplay wise, it's deceptively simple. Like it's not going to be a super challenging game. You're not going to be worrying about high scores or anything like that, really. But it is a very pleasing game to play, and I feel like I'm playing it the best way to play it. I don't really think I'd enjoy this as much playing it on Steam with my mouse or playing it on PS4 with the analog stick. Just finding moments and playing it on my iPhone seemed to be like the best experience for this in my mind anyway. And it's really fun. Like it's just stupidly fun to swallow things up in a hole. I mean, sometimes you just want to do that in this annoying world. You just want to be a douchebag raccoon and swallow things up.
Why is the raccoon a douche for doing this?
Dude, man, like you have to play the game. But
okay.
Let's just say he's not swallowing up things to be a superhero.
Okay.
He's swallowing up things to be a douche.
Okay. Right. Oh, carry on.
I was just going to say, despite him being a douche, he's a pretty funny douche. So, and the cast of characters in Donut County, the actual place, but also in the game, they're quite funny. And there's I'm going to get the name wrong, but there's this cool thing where you swallow things up. After you complete the level, you get, I believe it's called the Trashopedia. I might be wrong. But the Trashopedia, yes, it is the Trashopedia. The thing that's great with the Trashopedia is that it has really funny, especially if you're like extremely online, like a lot of us, it has a lot of funny descriptions for each of the things that you've swallowed up. And I won't say any of them because it'll be less funny if I say it, but it's definitely worth diving into and having a go. It's a very charming game. It looks really nice, and I don't know, it just brings a little bit of joy. Like it's you just feel good playing it. Like there's a smile on your face as you're like swallowing up barbecues and cars and all types of things. Like, I don't know, like it's just so pleasing. I think they need to add this function into more games. But like a lot has been spoken about how it's very inspired by like Katamari and you can feel that in the game, and it's quite nice. There feels something quite pure about it. But yeah, I'd heavily recommend that game.
That's a game I'd been looking forward to for so long. Like, it'd been in development for years, like 5-6 years.
2013, I believe.
Yeah, it's wild. And like Ben Esposito, he was working on it like in the evenings after doing his day job. Like, it's not something that he put aside his life to like get it out. He was working on it in his spare time, and it's such an achievement. It looks wild, and like you said, it was very reminiscent of Katamari Damacy, which is one of my favorite games ever. Like, it does have that irreverent, wild, strange tone where it's all a little bit wacky, and I gather that the writing in this is, like you said, surprisingly good, is what I've heard. Like you said, for those of us who are very online, all the characters talk like real people sound on the internet, and it's not written by like somebody who thinks they know the internet from the outside and they're trying to write about people who live on the internet. It feels like it's written by people who live on the internet. I've been looking forward to this for ages, and Annapurna have been doing some amazing games lately. I think we've both spoken about Florence in the past, which is a really great mobile Annapurna game. I think I gushed about Gorogoa when that came out, which I absolutely adored. And like, a common theme with Annapurna games is just their attention to art, I think. Like, Gorogoa and Florence in particular are very hand-drawn aesthetics. And then Donut County has this polygonal, like, how would you call it? Pared down, cute style. But yeah, I really love that that they pick up on these types of games with this, these very different art styles. And yeah, I can't wait to pick this one up. And I gather that it's like £10-11 on Steam, but it's actually a lot cheaper on iOS. Is that right? Do you remember how much you paid for it, Leon?
I can't remember exactly, but it would have been less than £5, I believe.
Right. Yeah. So if you're going to pick it up anywhere, pick it up on iOS, I guess.
While we're on games still, you two are more gamesy than me, so you might be able to help me out with this one. But there's a game coming out where you play as a goose, and I've seen a trailer for it. And speaking of douchebag animals, you play as a goose, and your whole job, like you have a shopping list of things to do to piss people off around this town.
You're talking about Untitled Goose Game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's literally called Untitled Goose Game.
Oh, right, okay.
And you go around playing like a dickhead goose.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks really good. Your whole job is to piss people off, which is great. There's like some great sequences I've seen in the trailer where you have to get the gardener wet, so you have to try and get him that angry that he chases you into the pond and things like that and all that kind of stuff, which is really cool.
In some ways, the art style looks very similar to Donut County, and it's almost like, like dueling films where two very similar films come out at the same time. Like, not that this is out anytime soon. It says early 2019 on the Steam page. Yeah. But yeah, it feels like they're like cousins in a way. Yeah.
You reminded me of it when you started talking about douchebag raccoon. I was like, I know something else that's got a douchebag animal in it. But yeah, no, that sounds really cool. So yeah, end of my list then. Last one today, I believe, in fact, is the last comic I'm going to talk about, which is something I was looking forward to for some time, actually, and something I brought up on the pull list last time. I've been looking forward to it since I discovered it, and that is something called Murder Falcon. Now, Murder Falcon. It's the same artist and writer as Extremity, so it's Daniel Warren Johnson, which is really, really good. Because Extremity is absolutely fantastic, and you can see that straight away when you look at it. It's got his style is just beautiful, and when you flick through the pages, actually, in places it's very manga-esque, especially in the way it displays and communicates action, movement, and in the way that when you've got these manga panels where someone's lunging at somebody to punch them, and they fuzz the lines on the arm that's moving or the fist that's moving. Yeah, it does a lot of that, and it's really, really cool in that, with the lines that show speed and lines that show movement and everything else. It's very manga-esque in that way, and it's really cool. This is his style. It's just great, and I think this leans into it more than Extremity did because of the nature of the book. But Murder Falcon, the cover itself straight away is this part Falcon, part Dolph Lundgren. He's got his arms in the air. One of them's made of metal, and there's lightning coming off it, and the other one is doing the devil horns, and then there's this guy playing guitar in front of him, big cheesy grin on his face, just wailing away on his guitar. And there's lightning, and there's rocks blowing up, and it's just you look at it and you can hear the solo. You could hear the solo before you got to the shop to pick it up, and it got louder and louder as you got to it on the comic stand. If you can understand what I'm saying here, you could hear it, or I could hear it on my way to the shop, and the music was just getting louder. And then I got to the comic stand, and there was just this deafening cacophony of guitars, and I was just like, yes, that's what I want. That's mine. It's the same guy who did Extremity, which was a beautiful story and book, and this looks the same so far. And it in the fact that it's also a beautiful story. When I say Murder Falcon to you, and when I give you the synopsis, which is this Falcon being from another dimension who's come to save Earth through the power of metal. With he's chosen this guitarist to play guitar, and he can't punch things unless he's hearing guitar. So this guy has to play guitar in order for the Murder Falcon to be able to fight. He can't fight unless there's metal. Now, when I say that, it doesn't sound like it's going to be the story that it is, because it's such a beautiful story. But yeah, as I flick through it, the artwork's gorgeous because, as I say, it's the same guy who did Extremity. It's very manga-esque in places, and the main thing to take away from this is it's just this. He's saving the world through the power of metal, and there's a deeper message here because it's a story. It's also a story of spiritual healing and release. So he's not just saving the world through metal; he's saving himself. He's been in a bad place for a long time. I'm not going to go into too much because I will spoil the story, but metal is helping him. And metal's helping him overcome that. And not only is he saving the world, but he's also helping and saving himself. And he's also, repairing himself, which is really nice. It's really great how this all comes together. And what I appreciate about this book, actually, I mean, I don't play guitar. I'm not a musician or anything like that, but I really do love metal. And I know how uplifting and how powerful metal can be. If you're having a really bad day, you can just go and stick your headphones on and you can go away to a quiet corner somewhere and you can come back feeling $1,000,000 after 3 tracks, That's how I feel anyway sometimes. Like three good heavy tracks. It's like catharsis almost. You go away, you listen to it, you come back, you feel $1,000,000. You feel so much better. Like if you, for a good example of this actually is working in customer service, because I've had customer service jobs. And anyone who's worked in customer service knows the pain of working in customer service sometimes. Like what it does to you. And going away on your lunch break and being able to just shut yourself away in a room and just go into this loud little world for a while and then come back, it just feels really good. And you feel so much better and it just resets you. And I can appreciate that, and I can appreciate what metal can do for people when they're in a funk. And I love that this is a story about that, in effect. Maybe on another level to that actually, because it's not just a funk. It's something a bit deeper, but it's really, really good how that works and how, this is a story about if you're having a rough time. There is something that, this is something you can hang on to. Like metal is something that, and playing guitar is something that he hangs on to, something he has that helps him through that. And it just resonated with me like that because I felt that, and yeah, it's just some great dynamic art and it's some awesome action shots. The character designs are really great. As I was mentioning before, Murder Falcon himself, he's got like these cargo jeans on and this bionic arm, and everything he hits just explodes or breaks or smashes or dies instantly, and it's just so brutal. And then the guy himself and his band, they just nailed the whole thing perfectly. Like his name's Jake, and yeah, he just looks like your buddy who plays guitar, and it's great. When you the whole story in this actually is that he had a band and the band were doing well and the band broke up. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but he's in a real something like horrible has happened in his life and he's having trouble getting past that, and he's in a real funk about it. And he's quit guitar. He's like, no, I don't play guitar now. I can't play guitar now. He smashed his guitar, in fact. And this is when, he meets Murder Falcon, and this is when things start to get awesome. And he is, Murder Falcon is telling him to play, and playing actually helps him, and he finds he enjoys it still. And then they're on an adventure now, saving the Earth. Murder Falcon explains his mission and everything else, and without going into too much detail, there's cosmic horror and everything, and it's just, yeah, start to finish, it's brilliant, and the way that it conveys its message is brilliant as well. And there's some really nice sequences in this. Like there's this whole sequence where they are sitting on top of the van, sharing beer, listening to a song on the radio, and the lyrics are blaring out in panel lettering, like not in speech bubbles, but like as part of the wider artwork that and they're like pointing each other, and you can tell they're probably either singing along to it or rocking out to it as they're listening to it, drinking beers together. And it's his memories interspersed with him listening to this song, and Murder Falcon's just there to be his buddy, and it's beautiful. This like buddy moment where it sort of culminates in this double page spread where they're sitting on top of the van, and it's a double page spread with 2 panels inset, 2 small panels, and it's very serene. It's very, like there's a cityscape in the background and you can see the stars and everything else, and they're like sitting out at a lake and there's like empty cans where they've been drinking, and they're just looking at this monster just in the lake that is just sitting there staring back at them, and it's just there. They're not, it's not moved. It just sits there looking at them, and they're sitting there watching it, and yeah, it's just great. It's just very serene, and like 2 buddies enjoying beer, listening to metal. I love that. And yeah, it just makes for a joyous read, and everything about it feels right, and it's extremely well put together, and yeah, I can't fault it anywhere. I cannot fault this book, and I recommend it to you two. Actually, I think you two would enjoy it as well, because the sort of the themes that it deals with here, like having something to run away to when things get tough, having something to cling on to. It's great.
Gonna have to shuffle it into the stack somewhere.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I liked it so much. I actually wrote. I don't know if it'll get printed or not, but I actually wrote a fan letter, because in the back it gives you an email address. So I was like, I've got to write about this. I've got to write you about this because it's so great. But yeah, I enjoyed it that much. So that is Murder Falcon #1. That is on Image Comics, and the team behind that, we've got Daniel Warren Johnson, who is the creator, artist, writer, and letterer. We've got Mike Spicer on colours. His colours are really great, really vibrant, by the way, especially in the monster designs. I really love that. We have Russ Wotton does letters as well, and Ariel Basic is associate editor. Sean Makovich is editor, and Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer did the cover, which is an awesome cover. Now, there was another cover that I seen for it, like in a shot on Twitter that someone had. I don't know where they managed to get it, or how they managed to get it. I've not seen any alt covers for it. There probably are alt covers, but I've not seen any. But the cover is Murder Falcon hanging out of the top of the truck while there's metal blaring out of the truck, and they're driving along, and Murder Falcon's got a beer in his hand, like hanging out the top of the truck, and a 6-pack in the other hand. And I'm just like, damn, I want that cover. But yeah, everything about it's great. Yeah, so that is Murder Falcon #1, and that is my big pick, my big recommend for this cast. And I think that brings us to a close on the comics and the content. So I guess what's left now is the pull list. So I will open this up with a couple of things for October 24th, which is the day that this cast drops. So these are a couple of things that I've kind of picked out from this week's comics that I think look pretty cool. So the first one is a new series, and it's on Aftershock. We've talked about Aftershock stuff before. I've talked about Cold War and what was the 2001 Space Odyssey type thing with the big black marker? What was that called, Ray? Help me.
I can picture which one it is, but I can't remember what it is. I'm really sorry.
Relay. That's the one.
Relay.
Yes. Well done. Yes. See, I had to go to my mind palace then to get that out. So this is a new series, and the blurb is as follows: Thrice 9 took Sasha's brother, and it took Maria's heart. Plagued by the ramifications of a techno-magic world now 30 years gone, Thrice 9 is a dirty folklore world that limps along, degenerating into a place filled with paranoia and poison. Sasha Vastanov thought he'd escaped all that, but when news comes that his younger brother is being kidnapped by the secret police, he finds himself dragged back into the madness with a simple goal: to find his brother. But Sasha is going to need help to do this, and he enlists Maria Kamenya, a former warrior with hundreds of enemy kills to her name, who was betrayed by the very country she served. This quest is how they get both of those things back, and in the lawless land of decapitated states, the land of dead kings. Written by Steve Orlando, who has done Batman Shadow, Crude, Midnighter, and Virgil, and joined by Matthew Dow Smith of October Girl, Suicide Squad, and X-Files. X-Files being I believe that'll be the IDW one. Dead Kings is an in-depth exploration of retribution in all its dark, complex forms. So, yeah, that sounds pretty awesome, and it sounds like something I'd want to check out. One of the other things I've got for this week, Mars Attacks, #1, which is on Dynamite Comics. So, I'm picking things now because they're kind of like, like this spooky Halloween horror movie type thing going on. So, Mars Attacks. Spencer hasn't finished a damn thing in his life, so when he goes to visit his dad to see if maybe he can borrow some money, the last thing on his mind is global survival. Now Spencer and his father are on the run, trying to avoid being space raided by a bunch of destruction-happy Martians. Heck bent on zapping them dead. This is by writer Kyle Starks, who does the Rick and Morty and Rock Candy Mountain, and artist Chris Schweizer, who does the Creeps and Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. They bring you the face-melting experience of a lifetime with Mars Attacks for the first time at Dynamite. So this is a Mars Attacks comic, which the cover looks pretty awesome. It looks pretty Mars Attacks. The thing it's got going for me right now is it fits into my whole Halloween mood. So that's why I've been looking at this to pick this up, because it's things to get you in the mood for Halloween, spooky-ish comics, and there's some quite nice looking variant covers for it as well. So these are the things that stood out for me this week. Ray, you got anything?
Well, you stole mine, Dead King, so I'm going to steal one that should be on yours.
Yeah.
That's Isola, Volume 1 trade paperback, comes out on the 24th of October.
Yes.
So it's something I've talked about issue #1, and you've gushed about the rest of it various times throughout the cast. It's written by Brendan Fletcher and art by Carl Kerschel. Isola, really good. And the way it's recommended is for fans of Studio Ghibli and the works of Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's really good. Gorgeous artwork. So check that out.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I've been reading Isola. I've got everything Isola up to this point anyway, so I've probably got all the contents of that trade. But yeah, it's
issues 1 to 5 in that trade.
It's Isola is well worth a read, and if you're not already reading it, pick up the trade. It's a good place to start. I guess that moves us on to the next week, which is October 31st. So that is the day, the big day. It's Halloween. And these are the comics that I've picked that are coming out on Halloween that I'm going to be reading. So this is just a few things that I've picked out. Some of them are new, some of them are things that, well, of course Greg's going to pick that. First one I've got is Batman Secret Files #1, which is kind of a one-shot. Delve into Batman's case histories and discover brand new stories by some of comics' most exciting talents. The Batman team of Tom King and Mikkel Janin provides a framing sequence setting up our hand-picked teams of creators to take a look at Bat mysteries past and present, featuring a bevy of Batman villains, including a look at how the Scarecrow's fear toxin affects the common man, and a special story written by Tom Taylor with art by Brad Walker that teams the Dark Knight Detective with Detective Chimp. And the team on that is looking pretty all-star. On the list here, we've got Jordi Belair, Tom King, Cheryl Lynn Eaton, Elena Casagrande, Mikkel Janin, Tom Taylor, Ram V, Brad Walker, and Jorge Fornes. So that's going to be like a anthology type thing, a Batman anthology, which sounds pretty cool. That'll be something that I will certainly be picking up. Next on the list for October 31st is Ice Cream Man #8. And this one is Emergencies. All around town, folks are in crisis, but this ambulance ain't stopping for no one, baby. Ice Cream Man continues with another dreary confection. So, the cover on this one, we've got a team in an ambulance being served ice cream from the back of the ambulance by our man, the Ice Cream Man. And there's an alt cover which is a clown made with like ice cream hair eating an ice cream in a box, which looks pretty creepy. I'm looking forward to that. I'm always looking forward to Ice Cream Man. Things that stood out as well for October 31st. This one struck me because it's just such an odd combination. This is the Deathstroke and Yogi Bear special.
What?
Published by exactly. Yeah. Published by DC Comics, Deathstroke and Yogi Bear. So Yogi Bear on the front cover of this is a very realistic looking bear with a picnic basket and a hat. and Deathstroke's in front of him, and there's all bats and stuff and wolves, and Deathstroke has his two blades out. So the synopsis for this one, or the blurb for this one, is as follows. In Yellowstone Park, legends speak of a spirit bear referred to as the Yogi, which few, if any, have actually encountered. Real or not, when a bear seems to have graduated from stealing picnic baskets to kidnapping actual campers, Ranger Smith decides it's time to stop this menace. So he calls on the services of Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, to get the job done. Plus part one of a Secret Squirrel backup story written by J.M. DeMatteis. So there's some Secret Squirrel in there as well. But
I don't think I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with this.
Well, it looks like he's helping Yogi on the cover. It looks like him and Yogi are buddies, but
I don't know. Have you seen the variant cover where Slade's hiding behind a tree and Yogi Bear's like as you said, very realistically proportioned, like diving into a picnic basket full of raw fish?
Yeah. Well, he's smarter than the average bear, though, right?
I guess. Pick it up if you want to, Greg.
I don't know if I'm going to. It just stood out because it was just so weird. Like, so fucking weird. But yeah, there we go, Yogi Bear and Deathstroke. So that's happening on Halloween. Yeah, if it's your thing, pick it up. And there's also the Avengers Halloween special, which is also including spooky stories starring the X-Men and Doctor Doom. So I think this is kind of a Cursed Cavalcade kind of deal. It's a short one though. It's only 36 pages, so it's only a standard comic. But for this one, epic thrills and ghastly horror await in these all-new twisted tales spanning the breadth of the Marvel Universe through the macabre lens of a murderer's row of writers and artists assembled here. See your favourite heroes and villains as you've never seen them before. It must be more than 36 pages. It has to be. That's got to be wrong. But we've got Jerry Duggan, Jen Soska, Jay Boschel, Juanan Ramirez, Jonas Scarf, Jeff Shaw, Robbie Thompson, Sylvia Suska, Rob Free, Ionin Maron, Bob Quinn, and Gerardo Zaffino working on this one. So, again, it's looking pretty cool. And the front cover, the cover for this, actually, the standard cover looks better. I mean, the alt cover is what looks like the Avengers in a Frankenstein's lab type setting, a Frankenstein's monster of Cap, Hulk, and I can't make out what that other arm is from. But yeah, it's like a Frankenstein's monster of the Avengers. I think that's the Thing. And in the standard cover, which is the one that I'm looking at because this one looks really nice, we've got some jack-o'-lanterns of Marvel faces, Marvel characters, Avengers, Marvel symbols, Marvel iconography, that type of stuff. And then we've got 3 kids in costumes, and we've got Venom as a scarecrow, and these 3 kids dressed in Avengers outfits making their way through this pumpkin patch, and it looks really cool. That's the cover I want if I'm going to buy it, with this menacing Venom scarecrow. The last one on the list is it's a what if, and it's what if magic became Sorcerer Supreme. And this is Magic Illyana Rasputin. This is Colossus's little sister from the X-Men stories, and this is what would happen if she became Sorcerer Supreme. And this looks like something that's pretty cool, something that I would want on Halloween to read because it sounds pretty awesome. So before she was magic, Illyana Rasputin was just a kid whom Limbo chewed up and spit out 7 years older. So it's no surprise that at 15 she wants nothing to do with the X-Men, nothing to do with the New Mutants, and nothing to do with her own powers. It's not even surprising that she runs away, but where and who she ends up, well, that's something you've never seen before. So this is what happens if magic becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. So yeah, that sounds pretty cool. You got anything for Halloween, Ray?
Only one, Sex, Death, Revolution by Magdalene Visaggio. Sorry, writer Magdalene Visaggio and artist Becca Farrow. Looks really cool. Very quickly go through the blurb. Life is a story, hers is being rewritten. Still reeling from the sudden collapse of her cover, Manhattanite sorceress Esperanza tries to rebuild. Looks very cool. I'm a fan of Magdalene Visaggio from Eternity Girl, which, if I remember correctly, we talked about it previously on the cast, and I was initially lukewarm on, but eventually came around to really liking the overall run. So I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, that's out on the 31st.
Yeah, so that wraps up the pull list, and that has been Ace Comicals number 46. Leon, unless you've got anything to add for pull list?
Yeah. My pull list is mega old because I am rereading Chilling Adventures of Sabrina in the run-up to the show, and because it's spooky time, I've dipped into some Junji Ito works.
Nice. So I'm going to be rereading Chilling Tales as well. And
me too.
I'm also going to be going back to my old favourites, my Batman books that I sort of read every Halloween because I'm weird like that. But like the Long Halloween and such, those ones. But yeah, that'll be stuff to add. Well, it's not really a pull list; it's just things I've already got that I'm going back to. But yeah, that'll be stuff to add. So I guess we should sign off. So that has been Ace Comicals episode 46, and you can find us at www.acecomicals.com, which serves as the hub for pretty much everything. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Castro. You can listen to us pretty much anywhere at this point. You can find us on Twitter under @AceComicals. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Instagram under Ace Comicals. You can find me on Twitter under @Batto, that's BATTOU. And you can find Ray. Where can we find you on Twitter?
On Twitter @Monkeh, MOONKEH.
And Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter @Leon Everett, LeonEverett.
Yes, and you can ask us questions by emailing to acecomicals@gmail.com, or you can send us questions into our DMs in Twitter or on Facebook as a message, and we will be able to answer them for you on the next show. Also, if you are so inclined, you can donate using our coffee page. So if you feel like it, you can donate the price of a coffee if you like what you hear, and all proceeds go to keeping the lights on at the podcast. So everything goes to keeping the website hosted, the podcast up, everything else. So yeah, that has been Ace Comicals number 46, and that is Ace Comicals over and out.